Hey everyone, I'm Matt Golinksi and welcome to the Apia Get Set Go Bake Challenge, where every episode I'll be showing you a little bit of a twist on a classic recipe. This week's challenge is going to be Strawberry and Passionfruit individual Pavlovas. This is kind of your fancy dinner party little dessert. It's a really easy one. There's a few little rules you've got to follow, but let's get cracking. Literally, the first thing I need to do is get 150 grams of egg whites. Now, your average egg is about 60 grams. Half of it is white, so about 5 egg whites is good. However, in the recipe I've given it in grams because everyone's got different size eggs. If you've got your own chooks, obviously they're going to be this big and this big. So weigh them is the best thing I find, because what we're going to do is have 150 grams of egg whites and 300 grams of sugar. Whatever it is, double the amount of sugar to the amount of egg whites. Very first most important thing of making pavlovas or any sort of meringue, anything where you're whipping egg whites, is that the bowl is super clean. So any oiliness in there will stop the egg whites from whisking properly. What I do is I tend to take the egg and use half the shell to get the yolk out. What I find is when you're cracking your eggs as well, crack them flat. Don't do them on an angle, because then you're more likely to get sort of a jagged edge and that'll break the yolk. You get any of that in there, it's going to stop the egg whites from whisking up. I like to think of it as kind of the Russell Crowe of desserts, really, where, or the crowded house of desserts, if you like, where, we've taken them under our wing and we've decided that they're one of ours. Egg whites in there. Don't try and do this by hand, otherwise you'll be there all day. Get that going. Full board's fine, it doesn't have to be slow. And then have the sugar ready. As soon as these get to a soft peak stage, and I'll just take this off and show you what I'm talking about there. That's the soft peak. So if it sort of sits like that, see how it's kind of not standing right up, but it's just sort of nice and soft still. If you take it too far, it's going to get all dried out. We want to get some of that sugar in there before it gets to that point. So get it cracking. Going to add this sugar a little bit at a time. And just to start with, just throw in a couple of tablespoons of sugar. Don't go too much. Once there's some sugar in there, it's fairly stable. You can't go too wrong now. Going to go a bit more. So now I really want to just let that go it probably takes about 5 minutes. And you'll come back, no more sugar grains, and it should be super glossy. And then we've just got to fold in some vinegar and some corn flour, and we're ready to pipe our little individual pavlovas. In the meantime, while we wait for that, I might make the passion fruit syrup to go with the pavlovas at the end. A little saucepan, cut all these passion fruit in half. You can use frozen passion fruit pulp, no reason not to. But when passion fruits are in season like they are now, this is a good time to be using them. They're so full, you can see those ones, how nice they look. Scoop those out. And this is really simple and quick. It's just a little bit of sugar, and just a tiny little bit of water just to help it kind of simmer away there, and just on the stove on the low heat until the sugar's dissolved. That's all it really is. So that's been about 5 minutes. The real test of whether this is ready, if you can tip it upside down and it doesn't fall out, that's a good sign. Corn flour, vinegar, so it's 2 teaspoons of corn flour, 1 teaspoon of white vinegar. Stir that through. And you don't want to knock too much air out of the whites, so it's really just a kind of working it round. I'm going to pipe these onto these trays here. I've got 2 trays lined with baking paper, but you can, if you want to, if you can just kind of do them freeform and just do a spoonful on there if you want. Either way is fine. You'd be surprised how much they puff up once they go in the oven. So I always get caught out by this, by thinking, oh, that's not enough mixture on there. And then they end up 3 times bigger than when you started. Give them plenty of space between them. Now, a bowl of water and a spoon, we want to be able to pile some cream and some strawberries and everything on top of these. So what I do is I just make a little nest in there, and that's it. Now, 120 degrees for about an hour is pretty good. You'll get a tiny little bit of golden colour on them, but not too much. And they'll have all that crispiness on the outside and a nice marshmallowy bit in the middle. And then the trick is to put them in the oven, leave them in there for an hour, 120 degrees, turn the oven off, and then don't open the oven. If they cool too quickly, they'll drop. So we need to be very patient and let them sit in the oven until they're completely cooled down. Now, let those pavlovas completely cool down. in the oven so that they don't drop, and you can see they're light as a feather. Absolutely beautiful. Now, I've got strawberries and passion fruit here to use on my one today, but the beautiful thing about the pavlova is that any sort of fruit can go on there, whatever's in season. So when mangoes are in season, mangoes are perfect. There's things like dragon fruits around at the moment, and that's a really nice thing to put on there because of the color of it. Cream on there. And then I'm gonna pile these strawberries up on top. I'm gonna fan them around a little bit. And that's the passion fruit sauce. So nice little drizzle over the top. Let it all run down. And there it is, my little individual strawberry and passion fruit pavlova.